What separates med spas that scale to seven figures from the ones that stay stuck, burn out, or quietly shut down? After 20 plus years after consulting with med spa owners and private practices, I've seen hundreds of businesses up close. Some explode in growth, others offering the same services in the same markets completely flatline. And the difference isn't usually the flashy marketing or some secret treatment. It's a handful of quiet, unsexy decisions that winning med spas consistently got right. In this video, I'm breaking down 6 lessons from owners who actually won and what they did different than the ones who didn't. No fluff, just patterns I've seen work again and again. The first lesson is one that almost every owner gets wrong before they open their doors. And really quick, if you're running a med spa or you're thinking about starting one and you want help figuring out what to focus on first, you should book a free strategy call with me through the link in the description. Now, the first lesson is probably the most counterintuitive. The med spas that win don't start by offering everything, but that's exactly what most owners do. They go to a conference, they get excited, they buy multiple machines, add a huge list of services, and assume patients are just gonna flood in. And then nothing happens because you're offering everything, but you stand for nothing. Patients don't remember you as the expert on something. They just see you as a menu of treatments. But one med spa owner I worked with did the opposite. She started with just Morpheus 8 and medical grade skincare. That was it. And while everyone else kept telling her she needs to offer more services and more machines, she became known for skin rejuvenation. Her content focused on it, her consultations focused on it, and patients understood immediately what she was known for. And within a year, her schedule was full. Then she expanded into another laser and some injectables after the demand and the cash flow was there. The med spas that win don't usually try everything from day one. They become the obvious choice for one thing, then expand from a position of strength. But getting patients in the door is only half the battle, because what happens after the first patient visit is where most med spas quietly lose momentum. The second lesson, that med spas that win become obsessed with retention. I worked with a med spa owner who was spending thousands of dollars on marketing every single month. Facebook ads, Instagram ads, Meta ads, Google ads, and the marketing was working. They had new patients coming in, but the revenue stayed flat. And when I looked at the numbers, the problem was obvious. Patients were coming in once or twice, then they disappeared. There was no follow-up, no rebooking process, and no long-term treatment plans. Patients would finish their appointment, pay, walk out, and never come back. So instead of spending more on ads, we fixed the retention problem first. We added automated follow-ups, trained the front desk on how to rebook patients, and built in long-term treatment plans. Within 3 months, their rebooking rate doubles. So she actually reduced her marketing spend because her patients that she already had were finally coming back. And what the best med spas understand is that growth doesn't happen just from getting new patients. It comes from creating systems that keeps new patients coming back again and again. But even stronger retention is not going to save a business if the owner doesn't actually understand their numbers behind it. Third lesson is that med spas who win track their numbers early. Most med spa owners wait until they feel big enough. They'll say, I'm too small for that, I'll track it later, or I don't really even know what to track. But the owners who grow fast usually start tracking it from day one. I had a client who tracked everything from day one: revenue, no-show rate, and profit margins per service. A few months in, she realized one thing, that most of her popular treatments were barely making any money once she factored in supplies and overhead and staff. Patients loved it, but the profit margins were terrible. So instead of pushing it harder, she adjusted her pricing and bundled it with a higher profit margin add-on. It quickly became one of her most profitable services. Meanwhile, I've seen other owners wait years before they even look at their numbers, only to realize they were barely profitable despite being fully booked. The med spas that win don't track numbers because they love spreadsheets. They track because what you can't see can quietly drain your business. And that's exactly why we built the KPI Intelligence Dashboard. It only takes 5 minutes a month, and it gives you a clear picture of what's working and what's not. Click the link in the description to learn more. Now, knowing your numbers creates a whole new problem, because once you can see what's broken, you need systems in place to actually fix it. The fourth lesson is that med spas who win actually build systems before they scale. There's a question I always ask my owners: what happens when one of your key staff members calls in sick? Their answer tells me everything. If their business slows down or falls apart, The business isn't running on systems, it's running on people. I worked with a med spa that was growing really fast, so the owner hired another provider, and almost immediately things became chaotic. Patients got inconsistent experiences, staff was giving different instructions, and the owner spent more time fixing problems than before the hire. The issue wasn't the employee, it was that nothing was documented. Everything lived in the owner's head. How phones were answered, how consultations were done, how no-shows were handled, and how rigs were turned over. Once everyone followed the same procedures, the business ran consistently whether the owner was there or not. And honestly, tools like ChatGPT and Claude makes this easier now than ever before. You can easily turn notes into clear SOPs in minutes. And the med spas that are pulling ahead aren't just using AI for marketing content. They're using it to build systems. And the med spas that usually win are the ones that build systems first. Then scaling becomes a lot easier. But even with the right systems and the right numbers, there's still one thing that holds a lot of med spas back. The fifth lesson is that med spas who win stop competing on price. And honestly, this is where a lot of med spas get uncomfortable, because when things feel slow, the instinct is to discount everything. You see competitors running specials and think, if I don't match that price, I'm gonna lose my patients. And that's how a med spa ends up at a race to the bottom. I worked with a med spa owner who was charging like $200 for a service that should really be like $350. Her schedule was full, but her profit margin wasn't very high. And she was completely burnt out. She was terrified to raise her price because she was worried her patients would leave. So we tested it. She raised her price to $325. She expected to lose half her patients, but she ended up only losing about 10 and everyone else stayed. So instead of doing 80 treatments a month at $200, she was doing fewer treatments while making significantly more revenue. She had less burnout, margins were a lot better, and her business was a lot better. And the people who left were mostly price shoppers anyway. They were never gonna be loyal. The best med spas don't compete on being the cheapest option. They compete on results, experience, and value. And usually the med spas that are trying to be the cheapest one are the ones that are struggling the most long term. But charging more only works if patients actually feel the difference. And that brings me to the final lesson that ties everything together. And that is that the best med spas understand that they're not just selling treatments. They're selling an experience. Think about the last business you recommended to someone. It probably wasn't just because their product was great. It was because their entire experience was easy and you felt special. And that's what winning med spas understand. I worked with a med spa that had great providers and great clinical results, but their rebooking was weak and their referrals were pretty non-existent. And when I looked closer, the issue was obvious. The booking process felt clunky. Patients waited way too long, and the front desk felt more transactional. And after the appointment, there was almost no follow-up. The treatment was good, but the experience around it wasn't very memorable. So we fixed the patient journey. We simplified booking, we reduced wait times, we improved how patients were graded, and we added automatic follow-ups. We had providers and simple personalized messages get sent out. Within months, rebooking increased and referrals started coming in more consistently. They didn't change the treatment, they changed how patients felt. The med spas that usually win don't just deliver good outcome. They create an experience that people want to come back for and tell their friends. So the good news is this, that every single one of these lessons is fixable and implementable. But if you're serious about building a successful med spa, the worst thing you can do is try to figure everything out the hard way. I made another video that breaks down the biggest mistakes almost every med spa owner wishes they knew before they started, from getting their first clients to retention to the costs that catch most owners off guard. So if you want a full picture of what exactly it takes to build a profitable med spa, go check out that video and I'll see you there.